It's really about the river. Our big plant depends on river water, but our processes could be a risk to water quality. So that's why we're expanding the gypsum stack at Redwater again. To make a ton of phosphorus fertilizer, we must create 5 tons of gypsum as a byproduct. We transport gypsum in a processed water slurry onto the stack. The stack can be like jelly till the water drains away. Then the gypsum's like granules. As they dry out, they'll get a crust on their surface. We recover the processed water and use it again. And it's the processed water we must most be careful of. Every drop must be recovered. We must guard against any processed water escaping into groundwater or into the river. Gypsum can only be stacked so high or the stack loses stability. So as this millennium began, we began expanding its footprint. Phase 1 was done in 2006. Advances in stack science led us to put an underground wall between the old stack and the new stack because groundwater protection under the new phases would be far more robust. Vents would run along the bottom to allow naturally occurring gases to escape. The key thing would be the liner, so acidic processed water in the stack couldn't get into the groundwater below or to the river. Drains were run over the liner to capture processed water that filtered down through the stack. The processed water would be run into a retention pond to be pumped back to the plant. This project is Expansion Phase 3, and it must be done this year or the phos plant will run out of space to store gypsum and may have to reduce its rate of production. By the time construction started in early 2016, almost 3 years of pre-construction preparation had been done. Engineering, exhaustive drawings, sourcing material, checking material compatibility. One of the first visible steps is to save topsoil for the day many years from now when the stack is decommissioned and the land is reclaimed. It'll be stacked maybe a meter deep on this field. Another step is preparing gypsum. On this nearby stack area on Phase 1 expansion, they're repeatedly turning the gypsum to dry it out. Gypsum will be a key building material for the construction of Phase 3 expansion. The green farm tractor with its box blade is establishing the final subgrade. The bulldozer is spreading a 6-inch layer of sand cushion above that. Elevations are measured to the inch from sea level. The ground has been sculpted into a basin, the size of maybe 35 Canadian football fields, and there are all kinds of services that will be placed in the basin before gypsum goes on top.
Gets rid of the trapped air that's under the liner.
The precision would probably boggle the average man's mind. The plans, 50 very large pages of construction drawing, detail everything. Our explanation here will be a little simpler. Key component of the project is the liner. It is protected by a cushion of sand below and then clay fill below that. Above, a layer of gypsum is placed on the liner and compacted. Seepage drains below the liner will allow the removal of excess natural groundwater underneath. Elsewhere, vents will allow naturally occurring gases to escape. We'll show you these in a minute. And in other places, the basin has a trench into which a drain pipe is placed, is surrounded by gravel, wrapped in geofabric, and then gypsum. An underdrain to carry away processed water that filters down through the gypstack. Oddly, this design comes from Florida. Florida has the world's biggest concentration of gypsum stacks. And Agrium Associates is where, over the last half-century, sophisticated stack design has been developed.
The design of the Agrium Phase 3 gypsum stack extension is an innovative design. It incorporates a perimeter dike that's made out of earth.
This is that perimeter dike. Its composition, slope, height, compaction, all specified by Agrium. Agrium even brings test samples from Redwater down here to Florida as part of its rather precise quality control.
It's the 12th of May. We've been working on the Phase 3 gypsum extension for 35 days now. So we started with topsoil stripping, and then we started our common grading, and we've moved about 300,000 cubic yards of common grading. We're at the critical stage where we're going to start liner deployment here in about a week and a half.
The liner is key. It will separate process water from groundwater for decades to come. Once rolled out, you gotta weigh this stuff down fast or the wind will blow it all over the place. High-density polyethylene. Those little bumps keep what you put on top from sliding around. The strips have to be sealed together, and the seam locations first have to be cleaned. The seal is called a weld. The liner is heated, sealed together. Many miles of seam to be welded. It has to be perfect. Samples from each seam are taken and tested, and there will be thousands of them. This is actually a double weld with an airspace in between. Each seam is tested. They confirm the welds by pressuring up the space in between. An Agrium inspector recording each test. The underdrain story is the gravel. In 2006, we found this particular gravel in Alberta, silica gravel. It's unusual. The acid in process water causes most gravel to coagulate, over time block the drain pipe that is supposed to remove the process water. But silica gravel won't melt or coagulate in the acidic water. Agrium has a geologist checking to make sure that only silica gravel is shipped to Agrium. The closest supply this time, though, is in Alabama. The supply in Alberta is exhausted. It must be silica gravel only, free of contamination.
The biggest challenge on this particular job has been the system rail cars. Just a lot of cleaning involved, getting them ready to carry a spec job up there to prevent any contamination.
They have adjusted the plan at Redwater to reduce the amount of silica gravel required, given the distance. But still, 50 carloads will be necessary. And when they get to the unload facility west of Edmonton, project guys are there to ensure the load is as specified. It'll be trucked the last 75 kilometers to site. The gravel around the underdrains will allow the process water to be drained from the stack for as many decades as is required. But wait, they're still trying to get the basin level and especially dry, and here it is the middle of summer.
Well, we're 4 days into some nice weather for a change. Since the May long weekend, we've had 26 days of lost time due to rain. We're behind on our project, well, approximately 6 weeks.
Rain muddies everything, slows down work once you can work. Here, they want to form an uninterrupted barrier by fastening the new liner to the edge of the existing Phase 1 liner, but they got to clean both first. At the edges of the liner, they tuck it into an anchor trench, then pack the top so the edge isn't going to move. This will be the outer edge of a dike. This is that vent that will allow any natural ground gas to escape. They're trimming the edge from the roll that arrived on site. The plastic lattice allows gas to escape. The geofabric prevents the lattice from getting clogged with soil or anything else. Now to sew the trimmed edge to seal it. That's a portable sewing machine they're using. This wraps the geofabric right around the lattice. The vent will be rolled out. After trimming and sewing the edges, they rolled it up so they could unfurl it again here. They still have to fasten in the field where the ends meet, the plastic with cable ties, and the geofabric will be sewn, always with an inspector looking on. The retention pond for Phase 1. Risers from the underdrains transport process water from Phase 1. The underdrains in Phase 3. Riser pipes here to take process water into the Phase 3 retention pond. Where they aren't covered with Alabama silica sand, you can see how the pipes fan out across the bottom of the stack. Notice the way gypsum has been used to make construction roadways on top of the liner. Each underdrain also has a stack that can be used to insert tools to clean it out. The pillows the water falls on are made from concrete. This is a fabric form for the concrete, a lot easier than trying to build complex handmade forms going down such a large, steep slope. The concrete prevents erosion from constantly dripping water. By the way, the Phase 1 retention pond here is joined to the Phase 3 pond. The road between is being retained to get access onto the stack, but there are pipes connecting the two ponds under the road. August is hot, often 30+ degrees. On that black liner, some people shield themselves in clothing that would seem to look way too warm, but they say it's good. And everyone is working.
We work generally 12 hours a day.
The pace is steady. The biggest construction material by volume is gypsum. Once prepared on the adjacent Phase 1 expansion stack, it must be taken, truckload by truckload, down and placed on the liner. The project will need 400,000 cubic meters, and like everything else, time is short to get the work done. They are working on the retention pond on the east side of the project. Sureway, the general contractor, has lots of good people who are on their game.
Good.
And when the weather holds, the job progresses well.
Yep, go ahead.
In the last couple of weeks, the production of the project has picked up. And usually when the production picks up, quality falls off. But I have a quality contractor out here, and they are building it to the plans and specs, and any time where they don't meet the specifications of the project, they will fix it immediately before going on to the next phase.
Ardaman is spread thin. Because so much work is being done, it is contracting out easier stuff to allow its key people to concentrate on critical tasks. This is a test to make sure that gypsum has been properly compacted, a test that, including all substrates, will be done thousands of times. This should be the home stretch, but there is still lots to be done. Snow is just weeks away and the pressure's on. The retention pond and the east dikes are done, but as we move across the site, some liner still is not in place and there's a lot of gypsum still to be positioned. Working on the west dike now as September draws to a close. Compaction reduces the volume of gypsum by as much as 40%. Every activity is inspected. Days are getting shorter, flipping by on the calendar. The weather is still spotty. Will they be able to finish before hard winter sets in? Finally, in November, the cloud of uncertainty lifted.
We battled the weather almost every day of the year. There was one of the worst Octobers I think we've had for I don't know how many years. We had lots of rain days again, and I think Halloween we finally realized that, yep, we are going to finish.
And it is finished. Here is the first process water into Phase 3. The fact it is under budget is overwhelmed by the simpler fact that it's actually done. A couple of things are memorable. It was one of the rainiest summers on record, 2 months' work lost to rain. And the incredible size of the job. If all the liner rolls here were stretched end to end, they'd reach to downtown Edmonton. But the result is the plant can keep making phosphorus, because now we have years more storage space for phosphogypsum.